This is our new Terrier. We're going to put it up with our KOS script, which I've also been tweaking with in the interim between the two streams. And Bill is all set. He's going, finally, thank you. I get to go to space. Let's get rid of our contracts for now. We don't, well, actually, no. We'll put them on here because he's going to do, is it the Michael A one? Or the Michael O one? Michael O, because I can see that it's not green yet. Okay, so that's Bill's mission, is to go do that one. Now, Michael O is in, there he is there, and he's in this inclined orbit here, and the inclination is actually 22.6 degrees, and I found that out by simply picking something that was in an equatorial orbit, setting it as a target, and at the equatorial ascending and descending nodes, it'll tell you what the relative inclination is. So the cheapest thing to do is to launch into an orbit that's in the same plane as this orbit, okay? Not to launch into an equatorial orbit and make the plane change. So that is exactly what we're going to do. So I'm going to center my view on Kerbin. I've not done this yet in this series. We're going to, can I turn off as much extraneous information as we can? I'm going to look at Michael's orbit edge on and put the moon's orbit edge on. So that tells me I'm right over the equator of Kerbin. There it is. And then I'm going to try and get right in on, it's a little tricky because the orbit getting messed up here on the other side, but right here is where I want to launch, and I want to launch myself going towards the south. So first things first, we're going to time warp over to there. It's going to be a night launch, so I'm apologizing for that, but it really, well, I guess I could time warp right around and get to the daytime. And I want to make sure I do not over time warp this. So again, let's get this right on the edge. Closer I can get this right on that, it's the equatorial descending node where I'm landing or launching. The closer I can get to that, the better. So get myself right in the center here of the Kerbin circle. All right, that should be good right there. Okay, and we're gonna launch. So we're gonna run our launch script. We are going to the south, so that's an inclination of negative 22.6 degrees. We want to go into an 80-kilometer orbit. It takes all this stuff as a parameter, and I don't want to invert it. So this should, emphasis on the word should, all go good. Let's see. Now I'm not suddenly really nervous. I did play with this and test it. Excuse me. Oh, there it goes. And although I panicked there for a second and went to hit the spacebar, I didn't need to hit the spacebar. I got really lucky because I put a little chunk in the script here where it lights the engine, and then it checks to make sure that we have an adequate amount of thrust for launch, and then it releases the launch clamps. And that's just in case Kerbalism decides to throw in an engine failure and blow up this engine, which at times it does. And if that engine was not producing enough thrust, or wasn't producing any thrust at all, it wouldn't have released the launch clamps and we would have just recovered it. And you can see here it's picking a heading going towards the south at a heading of 116 degrees. And that should hopefully, let's put this on our orbital info. And actually, I'm going to really watch the inclination. That should hopefully, there's our inclination, put me into an orbit with an inclination of 22.6 degrees. There is some math that it's doing to work that all out. Some of it's a little bit sketchy and a little bit kind of not eyeballing it, it's a computer program, but a little bit of loosey-goosey. But hopefully it should be okay. And this launch script, we ran this on last stream, and it did like 90% of it just fine. It did run into an issue at the staging of this main stage here. And what I determined what was happening is the reason why it ran into an issue last time is because you actually had to double stage to get this one to ignite. And I don't quite have an understanding as to why that's happening, but it did. And all I did was, if it recognizes there's no thrust, when it does this staging event, it just stages again. And that seems to work just fine. So hopefully we won't get the same problem here as we did last time. And hopefully everybody can see this all right. We're getting close. Oh, it's locking itself onto the prograde vector. How's my inclination doing? 22.8 degrees. Remember, I'm shooting for 22.6. That ain't bad. It's 0.2 degrees off. It's now locked on the prograde vector, so it shouldn't be changing this inclination too much. But I'll live with 0.2 degrees. I certainly couldn't do better doing it by hand. And there it goes. I was wondering if it was going to do that for a second. Stage the fairing, got rid of the escape tower, and we're going to find out if this stage is okay here. I'm going to be ready to stage anyway. There it goes. Did it fine. Nicey nice. Okay. And notice that it readjust. I don't know, I wasn't pointing out to the throttle, but it actually jumped up the throttle when this engine kicked in because the thrust is now a whole lot less. Running on just a Terrier and a trio of Ant engines. Oh, and it must have hit its 80 kilometers. Oh, I'm just noticing, I went up here with it just out of habit, but I have data coming to me from Kerbal Engineer. I think that's the first time in this whole live stream series where we've seen this data up here. The reason is because if you put an engineer on board, you get this data without having to put any additional parts onto your vessel. Also, if the tracking station is level 3, you get this stuff without having to put any parts on the vessel. I've been putting the engineer parts on the vessel because, you know, with this stuff, I don't know if I really need it anymore. All right, we've just gone into space, so it's lit itself up. It's got its antenna raised. Let's time warp a little bit here. And it's getting ready to perform that final circularization of a 321 meter per second burn. All right. Bill's having a great time. His first time in space. Alright, we'll get this burn done, and we should have ourselves a nice... See how close it gets. Target's always 80 by 80. We'll see how close it gets. It's nice having this launch script to deal with these sort of more repetitive tasks. Like launching, which we do all the time. Okay, it's reducing throttle, and look at 80.2 by 79.8. I'm not going to complain about that. Now I'm going to switch it back to the drive that was running from the drive that's on the KSC at Mission Control. Now I switched it to the computer that's sitting on here, and I should have. Just want to make sure. Yes, I have my CircAt program and my X-Man program. Now, I notice every time, I don't know if I have access to that computer core. This is something I'm just thinking about now. Oh, I do. There it is. That's the computer core. Can I take off? No, I can't. I wanted to take off the boot program it runs, because every time it runs it, it tries to reload that stuff, but every time I re-render the vessel, it reruns that boot program. But that's okay. It's okay. Everything's fine. Okay, let's put this on the normal vector for the solar panels, at least for when we come on. I can talk. Well, actually, you know what? Let's get this in the sun, and then we'll talk about what changes I've made to it. But right now, I got to get myself out to Michael here. So, and I want to get to him before he gets to the moon. Or she. I have no idea as to Michael's gender. Okay. Set up this rendezvous. Rendezvous is very similar to rendezvousing with the moon because his orbit is very, very similar. Oh shoot, I'm getting a bit of a moon encounter myself. Oh, what a pain in the back end this is. Okay, let's see if we can get rid of that. So we're coming in, and we're just touching the bottom of the SOI of the moon, and then rendezvousing with Michael. That means Michael must be just... We should be able to do this without... Well, we'll see. Michael must be just missing the moon, too. Let's adjust the timing here a bit. Other way. What's going on? The moon is so messing me up right now. Bloody moon. Oh, I see what's happening. The moon's giving me a bit of an assist. And then when I take that away... There it is. Okay, let's try and get this back. Okay. Other way. Frackety, frackety, frackety moon. I think I'm going to have to live with a tiny bit of a... Oh, maybe not. I really don't want to get involved with the moon. Okay. Really, truly. It's making it further. How far apart is this right now? 138 kilometers. Oh no, that's okay. That's okay. I see what's going on. I see what's going on. Okay. No, no, no. This is good. We don't have the moon messing us up. All that's happening... Oh, for goodness sakes. Okay. I'm going to leave it about there. And then what we're going to do is we're going to do a slight correction. I don't know. We'll... Frick's sakes. I am so... Why does the moon have to be where the moon has to be? Okay, we're going to have to make a correction part way along. Deal with that. Okay, so that burn's coming up in just 9 minutes. So let's warp to that. And then, actually, just hang on a second. I want... Oh, no, we'll do with this. Run X-Man's 2. I'll explain what I was thinking just a little bit. So let's run the X-Man script. X-Man, of course, for execute that maneuver. And we'll let it do the actual maneuver burn for me. And what changes did I make to this thing? One change I made, I put on a ton more batteries. So this thing, if it was in the shadow, can... run the life support for over a day. I thought that was a much safer plan. So that's one of the things I changed here was I put on a ton more batteries. I squeezed them pretty close to wherever I could. I had a couple of batteries on the outside of this, which I realized was pretty dumb because as this thing re-enters the atmosphere, they probably explode. So I moved that battery up to the top. And I think I just moved these cans around a little bit just to clean up the look. Okay, and there we go. We're off. I also was just about to disable these ant engines. I don't know why I have them enabled. I don't need them for thrust. They're less efficient than the Terrier, and they're reducing the actual delta V of this rocket. And I realized that just as this burn was about to be executed, but I was worried if I disabled them before the burn, then the timing of the burn would get all messed up, and we'll disable them as soon as this is done. I'm making this thing way more complicated than it needs to be. Okay, so yes, we're actually going to be doing 2 rescues, 2 moon flybys at least, and 1 advanced piloting maneuver. So lots and lots going on with these ships. With 2 different missions. Okay, let's take a look at what's happening out here. There we go. Alright, and then what I'm going to do is put a maneuver here. See if I can use that to kind of close. You can see my inclination isn't quite a match, but it's pretty close. Let's bring this up a bit. Yeah, a lot more. So we're going to bring this up to the plane, and then what we're going to do, let's see, is that, you know, probably around the halfway point's probably about right. Yeah, let's not fart with the timing. Timing's not that important. And then we're going to use some radial to adjust the timing of this. Is that bringing, no, that's bringing it up. Other way. And of course the moon is majorly messing with us, which is not cool. Not cool, moon. Prograde. I'm looking actually at these purple ones are coming pretty close. I'm just gonna have to deal with it. We are gonna fly by the moon here for just a little bit, and that's what's doing my head in. I come this way, and see if we can get those purple ones really close. Why, moon, why? You know what, I think I might need to just live with what I got. It just keeps jumping in and out of the moon's SOI. But those are 130 meters apart. Oh, now they're less than 100 meters apart. Do some last tweaks here, but no, the other way. Okay, I'm not playing with it. So they're 77 kilometers apart, not meters. But let's see, we're hitting the moon in about 5 hours, and then we're coming to this encounter a few hours after that. So I think after I'm through the moon's SOI, we can retweak this a little bit, but this stupid little encounter with the moon is really kind of messing with me. Let's put this onto the normal vector for our solar panel exposure. There we go. That looks pretty good. And I'm going to go around. I should have done this before. I'm going to shut down all of these ant engines. You can watch my here. I'll show. Let me go back. Let's activate them again. I'll show you what I mean. So right now my delta V is 1072 with a thrust to weight of 1.48, and if I start shutting these down, there, so I'm only on the Terrier. Now I'm at 1081, so I've gained 9 meters per second of delta V with hardly sacrificing the thrust to weight at all. So it doesn't make any sense to have those. These ant engines are backup engines in case this one fails, and I should keep them as that. Okay, so that maneuver's coming up in an hour and 50 minutes. So what we're going to do is open up alarm clock. We're going to add a maneuver, give ourselves about 5 minutes warning. There we go. We add that in, and now what we're going to do is we're going to jump to... I can do this from here. Oh, I should give this a different name. This is Terrier... should be a pro body. There. I just realized both vessels have the same name. So this is Terrier Mission 2. Okay. So now we're going to jump to Terrier Mission 1 and set it on a course for the moon. Lots and lots of going-ons. Making my life as complicated as I possibly can. Okay, let's get rid of alarm clock for now. So we're back here with Jebediah. Excuse me. Jebediah and Michael A, and they are on their way to, oh my gosh, turn stuff off, to the moon. There we go. Where's the moon? They're taking a more direct route here. Set that as a target. Now, I need to do a 45-degree inclination change, so we're going to use the moon. Might have to hop ahead in orbit here. We're going to use the moon to facilitate that. Okay. Let's focus our view on the moon. So what we're going to need to do... Let's play with the timing of this. Going to need to come to the south is what we're going to need to do. So I'm not going to hit the moon. I'm going to have to make a mid-course correction with these guys as well. But what methinks is I'm going to need to come above or below the moon to really affect my inclination. Wow, I'm like hitting the moon like smack on. Alright, oh, I gotta pop ahead in orbit. This is already, it's too close. There we go. Try this again. Alright. That burn's coming up in 30 minutes. And again, I want to shut down all these ant engines. Now I'm going to remember to do this. Okay, let's go. Let's go, let's go, let's go. All right. Oh, the Terrier Mission 2 is crossing radiation belts. Here's something else to think about. It's the first time I've got Kerbals. Actually, that's not true. Jebediah has poked his head into the first lower of the two radiation belts. Okay, we're going to run the X-Man script on this fella. There it goes. And it's going to also do the maneuver for me. By the way, you might be wondering, did I just mess up the burn time by disabling the engines? And yes, this burn time here is wrong, but the KOS script calculates its own burn time independent of this burn time, and I disabled these engines before running that script, so it should do the burn correctly. Hopefully. We're going to find out pretty soon. Alright, so there it goes. 3, 2, 1. Yeah, it's not starting at the same time as this one says it should start. That's okay. It's going to take about a minute. Alright. Oh, orbit a few times and let the moon pass. DeWolf, that would have probably been a good idea. I was struggling with that. DeWolf said this was previously with the Mission 2 Terrier to orbit a few times and let the moon pass. If I actually orbited just one more time, that probably would have been fine and wouldn't have delayed my encounter with the other Michael for too long. But oh well, it'll be okay. It'll be okay. This is officially now Michael number 1. The other one is the other Michael. All right. Let's see how this does. This is also going to require an inclination change, or mid-course correction. Oh, I love not doing these maneuvers and just having it do it. That ain't bad. That ain't bad. I'm happy with that. Okay. So again, mid-course correction. Is it better to go south or to go north? Jeepers creepers is pretty much the same. Let's go south. So is that a 45-degree inclination change? See my orbit there? It's not terrible. You know what, though? It throws me into such a monstrous orbit. I definitely don't want to do that. So I'm going to need to probably do an additional burn on top of this. That's okay. Let's see. I'm playing with the time. That's what I want to do. I want to get the more efficient place. That's the wrong way. Oh. Pretty darn close where I was. Okay, I'm going to need, because notice how big this orbit is that it puts me in. That's not acceptable. If I come around a little bit radially, that's doing what I want. And a little less normally. I want that periapsis here to be just outside the atmosphere is kind of the plan. So that's going to force me to be pretty far away from the moon, which means I'm not going to... No, this is a dumb idea. Let's go back up. Back up, back up. I can live with this. We're going to go into a bigger orbit. Move it this way. This is really eyeballing it. We're going to do more than this, but what I'm really looking at is trying to get a 45-degree inclination without throwing my periapsis up too high, because that will get... I don't want this to get too expensive on me and have to really fix this burn. I think I'm going to live with this one. I don't think it's quite 45 degrees here for the inclination change, but I think it'll be close enough that the correction I need to make won't be too much. So that's the burn we're going to do. That burn is coming up in 56 minutes. When is the other Terrier? It's an hour away. Oh, they're pretty close to each other, but it's doable. Jebediah is going to snap onto the normal vector here. And we're going to get out. We're going to do that burn. Let's do it. Yep. Yes, we got to do things less normally. Didn't realize how silly that sounded. You never want to do things normally. The less normally, the better. I was just getting that comment in the chat. I like being able... I love jumping between missions. I find that just a ton of fun. Yep. We are crossing radiation belts. These two are now at 2% of their lethal radiation exposure. I'm assuming that means 2% of a lethal exposure, which is fine. Once we get them back down into the lower part, they're below the radiation belts, and then everything should be good. Okay, doing the burn. Let's see here. And again, this was really done roughly anyway, so it doesn't really matter how accurate this is. But this is what I'm looking at. I want this burn needs to be an inclination of over 45 degrees. I don't think it's quite there, but we're certainly using the moon to do most of our dirty work. So we're going to come whipping around the moon in, how long here? Let's add an alarm. In 3 hours and 21 minutes.